This is Tim with
Death by Music.
I'm talking to...
This is Maurizio from Kataklysm.
Awesome, definitely. Well, you guys got a new album coming out this year, Meditations. How has that been so far?
Well, the process was a very long one, to put it together. We decided on this record to come back to our roots as far as the writing and the putting together the record is concerned. So we started writing this record together under the same roof, practicing and working on arrangements and just the general feel of the record together. So we haven't done that in over 10 years because we all live in different cities and different countries. So for us, it was always easier by internet to get it done. It's just like with the technology that's out there. So for this record, we decided, let's go back to the roots and work on something really organic and naturally felt, and we thought it was time for us to do something like that. So it was a great process, came out great, and we're very happy with the whole way that this album just came together,
As far as the writing process and doing the music, is it something that you guys all collaborate together, or is it something individually done?
Well, no, on this one, we did it all together, and we just, bounced ideas off each other, and there was just a good chemistry going on while we were writing it, and things just came naturally. Obviously some days there was less ideas or less things, and those are the days that you lose. But in general, when we were together, we would just come up with ideas that were great, and it's just a different way to write, So when you're by yourself and coming up and, doing guitar riffs and just the stuff, that you just nobody criticize you because you're by yourself. So the other way around was like, yeah, that's cool, or what, why don't you change this, or maybe you could start with this and I have this idea. And that type of feeling I think is what's missing a lot of music now. Everything's already processed. So I feel that going back to the way things used to be done, with that more of a original type of feeling and organic feeling, I think was very beneficial for us on this album.
How important do you think, and who does your album artwork, but how important is that and music videos in the industry nowadays? Is it very important to you, or?
Well, yeah, of course it has to be, because it represents an artwork for me on an album represents the vision of what the record's about,
Right.
So for me, it's very important to have something done well, So my wife actually did the artwork for this record and the one before that, of Goats and Gods, and she's very talented, and we wanted to create again, like I explained to you, the whole record was done very organically, even the production. We use a different producer that doesn't do a lot of processed death metal bands like you hear now. Everybody sounds the same. There's guys we work with bands like Stone Sour, Anthrax. It's just a completely different game compared to death metal or what we do, So his name is Jay Rustin. He was out of California and did a great job. So the organic feel of how we wrote it, then translated into this artwork, which is very organic as well, with the earth and all that dirt and craziness that's going on in the artwork, and it's very weird looking, and I think that just kind of emphasizes a lot on how this record is, it's got that real natural feel of everything, earthly,
Definitely. What does 2018 look like as far as touring and so forth?
Well, we're gonna do a couple of record launch shows in the U.S. Supporting this record. We're gonna be doing shows in I think it's New York, Chicago, Cleveland, and Los Angeles to kind of celebrate the release of this record. And then we're gonna be heading out to Europe on a headliner tour, and we're gonna be doing it with Hypocrisy. They're gonna be joining us overseas, and we're gonna be doing a cool run that's covering most of Europe.
Right.
And then we'll do the same tour over here in the U.S. In February, I think, next year. So that's the first plans. That's behind the record, and then there's going to be obviously other things happening that we still can't really talk about, but they're in the mix. So it's a lot of hype behind the record, and I think that there's going to be a lot of movement once it gets released.
Definitely. Of all the albums you've ever put out, what is the favorite one that you like the most?
It's a tough question, man. We have 13 records, so it's pretty tough to pick one that's really, your best. I think they're all my babies, and I think they're all different. I love them all, so it's difficult to really pinpoint one. You know, there's been a couple of them that really were influential on our career that changed a lot of things for us. Albums like Shadows and Dust, Serenity and Fire, and In the Arms of Devastation. Those three were like the kind of like big records that really exploded the band and made us kind of like, you know, known all over the world. You know, to a lot of people. And then, but I think Ghosts and Gods, the one right before this one, was also a very heavy hitting record.
Right.
And it was a very important album.
What is your most memorable tour ever?
Yeah. The what?
What is your most memorable tour ever?
Oof. Most memorable tour ever. There's, I think for me, you know, it depends. The ones that we were getting wasted every day, or the ones that were like, you know, memory rise. You know, to me,
right.
I think there's two of them that I would say, and I'm going to go with one in Europe and one here. The first tour I've ever done in my career was in 1995, and I was with DSI all over Europe when they had the record, the Legion record out, and that was for me like I was just in awe to be on tour with a band like that all over Europe. You know, it was my first tour ever. I was like barely drinking age. You know, I was 20,
right,
and I was just freaking out at the fact that I'm touring and doing my dream. You know, so that was very hard hitting. And I think in the U.S. the tour that I really enjoyed, that there's just two of them. There was a Danzig tour that I thought was really fun, that I had the great experience on, where he asked us to be direct support in the States and
right.
Get to know him, such a legend. You know, it was awesome. And then Ozfest was also a great tour that we had a blast doing. So a couple of heavy hitting tours, but they were cool. You know,
what's
partying on those.
I bet so. What inspired you when you were younger to get you into this line of work? I mean, what were some of your major influences?
Well, you know, it's first of all, I think sometimes that, you know, metal chooses you. You don't choose metal. You know what I mean? It's like you grow up maybe being different than everybody else, and you have a different outlook. And I think that makes you kind of, you know, wanting to search to something that's different.
Right.
I think metal has always been that type of rebellious thing that most people, you know, relate to find some sort of freedom within themselves, you know. And I think metal is a very privileged thing to understand and to be part of, you know. And I think that I was attracted by it, you know. And when I went to high school, everybody was like listening to rap music, and I was probably one of the only metalheads in the whole school. And then I found 4 or 5 other dudes that were like the same as me, and then there's a band that started out of that. You know what I mean? So
right.
It's special. You know what I mean? And that's how. To me, that's what got me into it, was just, I think, being an outsider and, you know, just being that person that's not part of a system, you know?
Right.
It's just wants to be part of something else, and I think that's where the biggest influence came from. And obviously, you know, you buy your first record, you know, for me it was Metallica's Kill 'Em All was my first album I bought, and I think then from there that was it. It was downhill in the sense of buying everything and, you know, Slayer, and then, you know, I was into like death metal, and so, yeah.
Did you get to meet Metallica ever, or Slayer?
No, I met the boys in Slayer. We've played, actually, last year, we played together a show in Germany. So we hanged out with the dudes afterwards. It was really awesome. I'm good friends with Gary Holt, so it's like, you know, through him, got introduced to Kerry King and Tom Araya, and it was really cool to be around those dudes and just like, you know, share a stage with them. So that was real fun. And then, I met them. I haven't met Metallica yet, and I've met the guys in Megadeth as well. So
wow.
It's been cool. You know, we've met a bunch of people, but again, you know, so it's fun to see when guys like that are super humble still.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I met them as well.
I want to hang out with you, yeah?
Yeah,
as soon as we went backstage, Kerry King was pouring down some Jägermeister shots, and he was like, hey, man, you guys rock, and was hanging out. It was like, holy shit.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know, when you were a kid, you didn't think that's going to happen ever.
Nope.
So.
Nope. I remember getting my first Exodus album, and then last year I'm friends with Terry Butler with Obituary, and I'm good friends with a lot of people in the industry, and we got to hang out with Gary and on the bus and talk to him and bullshit, and I was just like, it kind of set me back a little bit. I was like, wow, I'm sitting here with a guy that bought his CD when I was a kid, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, Terry's cool, man. All the dudes in Obituary.
Oh my
friends.
God.
Trevor, is a good friend of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, Terry's very, very close. Very, very close. Him and his wife are like my mom and dad. I just very, very cool people, and very awesome people. Them and Robin and so forth and whatever, and so many people. But as far as the people that, is it hard to have a band? And I know that you guys have some band members movement and so forth throughout the years. Is it hard to make albums like that, or is it easier to do something like that, or is it harder?
It's not easy. I mean, over the years, it's kind of like, it's difficult because, there's fans that love certain records more than others, and I think it's because some albums, have hit certain people at a certain time in their life, and it means something to them at that point in their lives, and it doesn't matter what you're going to do after that. It's never going to be as good as that album, and it's not because the records are shitty or anything. It's just because it hits people in a different way, and I think it gets difficult in the sense of like trying to top yourself every time.
Right.
Trying to do that is almost an impossible mission, So I think the important thing for us as far as band is concerned is just the right songs that, we think are great and that we feel are strong and that, our fans will like. We do write considering our fans. We're not that type of band that, we write our music for us and we don't care about our fans, they either like it or not. But I always thought that was a bit stupid because if you're doing that, then you should do it in your garage just for you and not release records, right?
Oh, yeah.
So to me, you have to consider your fans, if they're behind you, then, that would be cool. I think the kids will, love this. And so that's a super important factor for me. And when we write to try and do the best we can, and then that's the best you can do. You can't, trying to top yourself is when they're not going to make it happen. You know what I mean? When the industry first started out, you had, of course, Metallica and Slayer and Suicidal and Forbidden and Possessed and back in the day, and these guys have lasted almost 30 years. You have lasted how many years? Over 20. So yeah, we're 25 now. Yeah.
Right. So you're 25, just same as Goat Horde. But the thing is it harder for newer bands to come out nowadays? And plus, with you guys being so much longevity, is it kind of like you got to keep up with the times? How much has it changed from back when you started till now? And do you think it's going to be harder for a newer band coming out to get that longevity throughout the years?
Of course it is. It's the same thing as how many people stick to the same job for 40, 50 years, like let's say our grandparents used to do, or like some of our older folks and stuff. Those days are over. Everybody's changing jobs every 10 years, or 5 years, or 15 years. So us doing this for 25 years already like phenomenal. I think it's very difficult to keep the same people with you that are thinking the same way and want to do this and love this. That's very difficult, because people change, people have families and things happen, and it changes the way, perception and everything. So for us, longevity has been all about, adapting to times as well. You have to adapt. It's not something that you have to take it easily. We never walked away from who we are sound-wise, as far as like the band style, we've always kept the root of it is the same. It's just that we mess around with different ideas and we do an evolution, and the sound production-wise needs to be modernized, because if you don't do that, then you're going to sound like the 80s, and doesn't mean that it's going to be the best, to compete with anybody out there. So if technology is moving forward, you need to be moving it with it, that's if you want to stay around, and that's for sure. So new bands coming out, much more difficult because the attention span is short. It's not like it used to be, and we're kind of like doctored in. You know what I mean? Like after all these years, people know who we are. You say Kataklysm, and you could be a real big band, and I guarantee you, even maybe a Metallica knows the name Kataklysm, doesn't know who we are maybe, but heard about it. So that's what I'm saying. It's difficult now for new bands to come out and have that type of longevity associated to their name. So, but you never know. We'll see in about 15 years or 20 what happens with those bands,
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I guess the last question, what do you do on your off time? When you're touring or when you're not touring, do you guys do sightseeing? Do you visit restaurants? I mean, what do you do in your time?
We have our enjoy moments, we call them, and when we're on the road and we just we try to find Irish pubs or stuff like that.
Right.
We have a couple of beers and then we just have a good time before playing. Like it's just we don't get lit, but we just have a little bit of a couple of beers just to unwind, and we like to visit sightseeing and everything when we're on the road. But when we're home, most of us have families with kids, and we just spend time with our families as much as we can because we're gone a lot. Me personally, I also manage a bunch of bands that are signed to record labels all over the world, and I have my own agency where I book tours. So I'm always working, one way or another, even when I'm on the road.
Yeah. Well, that's sorry. I wanted to ask a question about that, but how do you find time to do the band and do your managing thing also at the same time?
Well, it's all part of the same industry. So
right.
For me, it's kind of like if I'm doing something for Cataclysm, then I know that at the same time I can do a couple of things for my other bands because we're all in the same. It's a very small family in the metal business. All the record labels, and the people, the agencies, we all know each other. So it's a pretty easy thing, and I love doing that. I love to develop bands, and I know how to think ahead, and I think that's works very well with the bands I have, and so I've worked with bands like Septic Flesh and Flesh God Apocalypse, and Carrick Angren, and I was also working with Iced Earth, and so I had like a bunch of bands that I've worked with that were demanding, but at the same time I always had the time to make for them. I believe that being available all the time is important, in this industry for things to happen. So
right.
Yeah, so I enjoy it. That's the important part. If not, I couldn't do it.
Well, definitely. Dude, you have no idea. I've never seen you live in my lifetime. I live in St. Louis, Missouri.
Really?
I've never seen you, man, and your band is one of my bucket lists. And I will find a way one day before I pass away to see you guys. You're one of
I hope so. Yeah, it'd be nice.
You're one of my favorite bands on the planet. Your new album, every album that you produce out is just phenomenal, but Meditations is really, really freaking good. It's really
Thank you.
I think it's as good as the very first one that you came out with, which I thought was brutal as all get out. I love your videos. Your videos are very inspiring, and they kind of tell a story. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck. And this album is phenomenal. And thank you so much for doing the interview with us. And I know you got to do a lot of stuff and you're very busy, but we are very, very big supporters. Death by Metal Steel is very big supporters of you guys. And someday, hopefully, you'll come to St. Louis, Missouri and play again.
Oh, it'd be great. It'd be great to come down there, and it's not too far from Chicago,
No. If you need help, we'll book you at a show. Well, I've got venues to book you in. So all you guys say is, "Hey, we need to play," and I'll be like, "I got it."
That'd be awesome, man. And we really appreciate your support and you being out there, putting the word out. So we're happy, and thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you down there.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, and thank you to Nuclear Blast. Thank you so much.
All right. Cheers. No problem.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.